I'm a fat femme Asian with nothing to lose. Hey, it's me, Michael Chacho, and this is my Fat Fem Asian Life, starring me, Michael Chacho, live from my closet, filming myself as a grown man without any other hobbies. Should I be self-deprecating? I feel like that shouldn't be the mood, right? We should be uplifting. I should be uplifting myself. On today's episode, we're going to talk about being fat. Oh. The fact of the matter is, I feel like the topic of being fat is like beaten to a dead horse, and we all talk about size acceptance and body positivity, but I'm going to talk about my experience being fat, and we'll just slowly keep it to that. I mean, I've definitely struggled with body image issues and being fat my entire life, especially growing up in a Filipino household. I think I was made aware that I was fat for a very long time. Since I was a very young age, it was very common for my parents to always comment about what I'm eating. It was always common for like other people that my parents knew, my parents' friends, to comment on me being so big. It was just toxic Filipino culture, I guess you could say. It's like in the Filipino culture, it's like if you're fat, you're basically like the butt of every joke. You're something to be made fun of, and it's basically like no one takes you seriously. I feel like I've always been like fat shamed and gaslighted by my parents, and I guess I turned out okay. I did have a bit of an eating disorder, but I guess it's fine. I just had to drop that one in there. Like, oh yeah, I had an eating disorder. No, I mean, I've definitely had a bit of an eating disorder. I was a little bulimic. I would say it was a mild bulimic, but, I've definitely had to work through my own self-acceptance and through my own healthy eating habits and my own healthy body image issues. I think that the most important step in my own self-acceptance, I guess, was just kind of redefining what being fat meant to me. Ever since I was a kid, being fat was something gross and something wrong, and it means that you're weak, it means that you're unhealthy, and I've definitely taken that to heart a lot, and definitely had like a low self-esteem. Kind of I still do, I guess. But what I've had to tell myself is that being fat is just a minor description of many descriptions of me. I can be a lot of things, and being fat is just one little thing. It's always important about how you feel about yourself, and there are some people that like their bodies as fat and some people that don't. I mean, I can say that I definitely wish I wasn't this size. I kind of liked my body when I was a little less heavy. But again, I think of being fat as just another minor description of me, and it doesn't have to define me among the other labels that I've chosen to adopt. I try not to let something like that define me. And I also try not to let being fat be something so negative. Like, yeah, I don't like the way that I look, and yeah, I wish I was more muscular or leaner, but it is what it is. I still have to like myself, and I wish that's all that mattered. I mean, I feel like society as a whole has come a long way with the idea of body representation and prohibiting fat shaming, or identifying bullying and preventing bullying. However, I feel like that predominantly pertains to young girls and women. There isn't so much dialogue about men's body image issues. I mean, there's definitely more than there was before when I was growing up. You know, the fact still remains, though, is that there's going to be horrible people anywhere, and there's going to be people that will unfortunately judge you for the way you look, and they'll judge you for being fat, and they'll treat you differently because of the way you look, sadly. And especially if you're in the gay community. Gay society is just very rigid. It's these crazy body standards where people favor that porn star looking type, you know, six-pack abs, ripped, muscular jock. In my experience being fat, like, I was very self-conscious. I was beating myself up because I felt like I didn't look good enough. I didn't felt like I was accepted because I didn't look a certain way. As I got older, though, I also kind of learned how being fat was also kind of polarizing. You know, there are people who are gonna find you repulsive because you're fat. Like, you're disgusting, like, get away from me because you're fat. But then there's also people who, they see you as fat and it's like a fetish for them. Like, they're into that. Like the feeder fetish, from what I've heard. Either way, it just wasn't a pleasant thing to be considered, because in either scenario, it's like they didn't see you as a person. They just saw you for what you look like. And it's kind of like also being demonized as being too femme or too Asian. You know, they're only looking at this one thing and have defined you for it, and they either love it or they hate it. More often than not, they hated it, though. So when I started in the online dating circuit, you know, the various websites I've used, including the ultimate Grindr, I was made very aware that I did not look the part, so to speak. You know, using those apps and those websites when I was that young also made me realize how harmful my own preferences were. At that age, I was also looking for the fit body type, even though I wasn't fit. It was like I was attracted to people who I wanted to become, not exactly who I wanted to be with. You know, it was kind of like a status of elitism, where like, oh, I want to be part of this elite group that's fit and mask. And you know, I had to really check myself, like, I'm being the victim and the villain of my own preferences, and what is that saying about me? I was being horribly superficial, and conversely, I was self-hating myself. I think my entire time on these dating websites and dating apps was just this vicious cycle of self-hatred. And all that time, I thought that I was the one being mistreated. And they're like, oh, everyone else is shallow, and I'm trying to get to know people for who they are. I'm like, no, I wasn't. No, I wasn't. The truth of the matter is that Grindr and most of those dating websites are used for sex, and people are looking for a certain type to have sex with. And the truth is, if, you know, someone who is fit and probably works out 12 hours a day, they probably also want to have sex with someone who is fit and works out 12 hours a day. Of course, that's not like a hard and fast rule, but, you know, you have to think that if someone prioritizes the gym, they probably also want someone else who has those same priorities. it's definitely taken some years of self-growth to realize how horrible I was being, and I really had to learn to digest that. I guess you could say I had a large slice of humble pie. That was I was trying. I was trying with that one. Yeah, I tried. It still makes me wonder, what exactly do I want, and what exactly do I want for myself? Like, do I want to be identified as fat? Not necessarily. Should it matter if I was identified as fat? Not unless I think that about myself. Should I redefine what being fat means to me? That's probably long overdue. I mean, at the end of the day, I just keep trying to tell myself that being fat is just a body type, and that's all that it is. It doesn't have to mean that I'm this vile, disgusting creature, or that I'm weak, or what have you. It doesn't have to mean that way, but some habits are just hard to die. I keep telling myself that, it just is what it is. But there's still some wounds there. And I think throughout my gay life, I try not to care what other people think. And then I've also learned to try and avoid other gay people. And I'm still working on that. Maybe someday I'll figure it out. Maybe on the next episode we'll figure it out. But probably not. I'll see you on the next one.